You cannot argue otherwise.
He's had Nick Fuentes at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, and he didn't know about it. Somebody brought him to dinner, but he obviously is not.
He had the dinner.
He's not aligned, but he didn't know the guy. He's not aligned with the guy,
and didn't denounce him afterwards.
This is the most pro-Israel, pro-Jewish administration.
Kanye brought him to dinner. Another pro-Israel.
Absolutely.
Period.
Maguel Scott Jennings once again appeared on Abby Phillip's show to discuss the ongoing MAGA civil war, where figures like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Nick Fuentes are breaking away from the pack. The panel featured Scott Jennings, Cornel West, Batia Ungar-Sargon, and Anna Navarro, and we'll be looking at a few key clips from their discussion on Abby's show. I'll also be sharing my own thoughts along the way, so let's dive into it together.
Tonight, MAGA world appears to be fraying, and Trump is struggling to keep it all together. From the Epstein files to the H-1B visa saga and the economy, and also Israel, his recent comments on a number of issues has split the party. Trump has tried to toe the line without upsetting a lot of people in the base, and he's reminding them who's boss.
MAGA was my idea. MAGA was nobody else's idea. I know what MAGA wants better than anybody else, and MAGA wants to see our country thrive.
One person not straddling that line is Ted Cruz, who has gone all out in calling out Tucker Carlson for his recent podcast with self-described Nazi and Holocaust denier Nick Fuentes. That podcast has been one of the key things that's divided Republicans of late, with some of them coming forward to defend Carlson under free speech grounds and others accusing him of elevating an anti-Semitic corner of the party. President Trump weighed in on this weekend.
We've had some great interviews with Tucker Carlson, but you can't tell him who to interview. I mean, if he wants to interview Nick Fuentes, I don't know much about him, but if he wants to do it, get the word out. Let them, people have to decide. Ultimately, people have to decide.
Fuentes saw that clip and took a victory lap. He posted on X, "Thank you, Mr. President." Now, there's growing speculation that Ted Cruz is actually teeing up another run for president. He threw some cold water on the speculation today, but many view Cruz's tiff with Carlson as a jab at Vice President J.D. Vance, a close ally of Carlson's, and someone who's seen as the front runner of the Republican ticket in 2028. And Scott, as you have spent time with Trump and now written a book about his politics, he is not going to be the person to lead the future of the Republican Party in 2028. And the succession debate is happening right now. And there are also these cracks showing up about what actually do MAGA people believe? Are they pro H-1Bs, against it? Are they for, quote unquote, free speech and what Tucker is doing or not? Where does Trump come down on that?
Well, there's a lot of issues you raised in the segment here. I did see the president today, actually, and we discussed the Marjorie Taylor Greene issue a little bit. What happened with her is very simple. She was wanting to run statewide in Georgia. He privately and discreetly sent her a copy of a poll that he had seen, and she was way down. It was not going to work out. And ever since that moment, he did her a favor, actually, by saving her from a humiliation. But ever since that moment, she's opposed him on bombing the Houthi rebels, on bombing Iran. She's opposed him on deportation. She's gone on, TV shows and attacked him. And so because he sort of betrayed her in her mind on that political moment, I think he did her a favor. She's become an opponent. On this other stuff,
She's called on him to release the Epstein files.
Okay, and they're doing
he hates that. But you can't omit that because that's the reason that he's really gone, full throttle against her.
On the other issues, though, I saw his comments about Fuentes, and I mean, my reaction to it was maybe he's wanting people to see how crazy and vile this is. This is the most pro-Israel, pro-Jewish administration we've ever had, period. You cannot argue it otherwise. The president knows who our ally is. It's Israel, and the president has supported Israel, and the president has been supportive of Jewish Americans and Jewish people around the world. You cannot argue otherwise.
He's had Nick Fuentes at Mar-a-Lago.
Yeah, and he didn't know about it. Somebody brought him to dinner, but he obviously is not.
He had the dinner.
He's not aligned, but he didn't know the guy. He's not aligned with the guy,
and didn't denounce him afterwards.
This is the most pro-Israel, pro-Jewish administration
Kanye brought him to dinner. Another pro-Israel.
Absolutely.
Period.
Yeah, it doesn't. Right. I don't know that the other guest that was invited, Kanye, is much.
And Donald Trump has never done anything except support Israel and support the Jewish people, and that's his administration's policy.
I don't think. Just to be clear, Nick Fuentes' problem is not just that he's anti-Israel. He's also a vile bigot as well, and I think that is also problematic. It's not just about that one issue.
Scott Jennings' argument here is honestly unbelievable, and it's the same tired pattern we've seen from MAGA and Donald Trump for years. He wants us to believe that Trump somehow ended up having dinner at the White House with Nick Fuentes because someone else just casually brought him along and Trump supposedly had no idea who he was. Think about the level of security that should exist in the White House and how impossibles. Proceed on the one to rewas, then the kulawopit. Proceed further says wadadi. The witridalo might seem but never mood mize the branks. But thou the source of a seating White House, seatoing the butilimin poramide, foing to milize, the ride has we paradise. It is to imagine a president dining with someone he supposedly knows nothing about. And Trump has pulled this move repeatedly. Remember the billionaire he pardoned, a man who committed real crimes, yet when Trump was confronted about it later, he casually claimed he didn't even know him. MAGA figures like Jennings repeat that excuse as if it makes sense. But what does that even mean? You pardoned a convicted criminal and your defense is that you didn't know him? The logic is absurd, yet this is what they expect people to believe. And when it comes to unwavering support for Israel, Jennings is all in, even though many people argue that blindly supporting and funding their military actions is not a good thing. What MAGA will never acknowledge is that people can criticize what Israel is doing without being anti-Semitic like Nick Fuentes clearly is. The contradiction doesn't seem to bother Jennings at all. He twists himself into logical knots on Phillip's show to protect Trump, insisting Trump had no connection to Fuentes, and then shifting to Marjorie Taylor Greene by listing all the positions where she disagrees with Trump. But to me, those disagreements actually make sense, and even though I have plenty of issues with Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's been right about most of her criticisms of Trump. Jennings can't stand that, of course, because he's the ultimate Trump loyalist who will defend him no matter what.
Pro-Israel and pro-Jewish are not the same things. There's a whole host of Jewish brothers and sisters who come up.
Cornel West makes a strong point there, and Scott Jennings immediately leans into that smug, dismissive attitude he always projects, acting as if any criticism of the Israeli government automatically makes someone anti-Semitic, which is exactly what he's implying with that condescending smirk on his face.
Out of a rich prophetic Judaic tradition that's critical of the Israeli government and critical of Israeli policy. So don't fuse all those together as if Israel speaks for all Jews. That's just not true. Any community has various voices, prophetic voices, centrist voices, priestly voices. So to say that pro-Israel is pro-Jewish is
That's
already
fine.
misleading.
That's fine.
Do you agree with that?
That's fine, but I'm simply...
Do you agree? Just say yes. Just say yes.
I'm simply arguing that this president has supported our ally. They're our ally. He has supported our ally. Whether you like the government or not, they
Batia,
are
you
our
brought
ally.
this up a little bit because you were talking about kind of the online voices versus the real voters. And maybe it is true that Trump is in tune with the real voices, but it seems like the future of who's going to lead the Republican Party is in part being sorted out by some of these so-called online voices.
It's my view, and I have not seen any counter evidence to this, that the less online campaign always wins. And what we're seeing right now is a big media turf war for conservative viewers. Now, a lot of this has to do with Charlie Kirk's assassination, because what he was doing, we only realize now, he was able to both talk to politicians and to donors and to the online comment section, if you will, and to the online influencers and hold all of them together in a coalition. Now there is a turf war. And the problem is that a lot of that turf is not American, it's not Republicans, it's not conservatives, and it's not voters.
What is it?
The whole world has access to the internet,
so
right?
So who do you think has the best non-online, feel for the party?
Well,
right
I will tell you there are very few Republican politicians who I have seen who have not come out against Nick Fuentes. Now, the ones who haven't are notable, right?
Like J.D. Vance.
Like J.D. Vance.
That's very notable.
Again, which brings me back to how online are you, right? Do you feel that you cannot upset the Groypers, or are you going to say, this is not what it means to be a conservative? And I think that is going to be a big fight.
I think those are all super interesting and important points. And it's notable that where, Vance is staking out the other side of that argument.
Well, but I also think that that's part of what's happening, right? You've got a lot of talk about J.D. Vance angling to be the successor. You've got a lot of talk about Marco Rubio angling to be the successor. And I don't think Ted Cruz wants to be left out of it. He's run for it before. Obviously, that ambition is not gone. I think this weekend was, for Trump, a we saw the consequences of the elections in the 2 weeks ago, which were a resounding rejection of Republicans and Trumpism, in my opinion. And I think that's why so many Republicans were willing to buck him on this Epstein vote. I think it's why this weekend he went back on some of the tariffs, particularly on food, because he's hearing the message on people not affording groceries. I think it's why this weekend he's also made a turn. I'm having a hard time following it on Venezuela and whether he's going to bomb them or negotiate with them. I can't figure it out. And so I think he is coming to terms with the fact that it's the beginning of lame duck season, and there's all of these young'uns already angling to see whose turn is going to be next. And Ted Cruz has left Cancun and Puerto Vallarta long enough to put himself in the mix.
Dare I say this is the beginning of the run for 2028?
Scott Jennings is back to performing for the camera at the end, and as usual, Ana Navarro is absolutely right. I truly hope she's correct, that once Republicans keep losing to Democrats, they'll finally recognize the widening cracks inside MAGA and begin following Marjorie Taylor Greene's lead by turning against Donald Trump. Whatever you think of Marjorie Taylor Greene, and yes, people say she is doing it for political advantage, but at least she shows some courage compared to most of her party. You have her, you have Massey, and Rand Paul, who goes back and forth, sometimes opposing Trump before crawling right back to support him. But if more Republicans spoke out the way she has, instead of marching in complete lockstep with every destructive thing Trump does, we might actually see meaningful change. Let me know your thoughts on this. Do you agree with Ana Navarro, Abby Phillip, and Dr. Cornel West, or do you side with Scott Jennings, Batya Sargon, and the MAGA narrative? Share your thoughts in the comments and make sure to like and subscribe.